side. So I mentioned earlier about antibiotic resistance, and that's such a huge part of CF uncertainty, or I like to call it sometimes the certainty of the uncertainty, where like, you know that it's going to happen at some point in your life. You're just hoping that there will be an antibiotic that exists at, like you said, when you need it, that it's available to you here in Canada at the exact moment so I think you need options, and it's not enough to say, well, this antibiotic should work on this bacteria. We need more than one because if there's an allergy, or if your body has developed resistance to it, like I know for me, I'm colonized with several bacteria over time, and one of them in particular has become very resistant to the point that we only found one IV antibiotic, forget pills and all that, just IV that worked for me. And on my last day of a course of antibiotics that I had in 2020 in the hospital, the doctor came in and said, well, there's been a recall of this antibiotic, and we actually don't have any, we can't give it to you, and we don't know when we're going to have it again. And for the months in between when I last needed that antibiotic and a few months later, when I then had another thing happen, every night I would just wake up feeling like, what happens if I need this and it's not here? What happens now? Because there wasn't another option. And that is terrifying. I hope no one ever has to experience that in their life. So that's one reason why I think it's so important that we have options and new antibiotics developing. The other piece which ties into this is that bugs get smarter. And I hate to say it, but bacteria, they mutate. We've seen it with COVID, with the virus, how many times we've had variants of this. Bacteria do similar things. I mean, I'm not a scientist, so I can't say exactly, but I know that they get stronger and they become resistant to different things. So we need options to be smarter than the bugs and to be able to stomp them out. The third part, and this doesn't maybe sound like a positive thing about antibiotics, but I mean for it too, is that the side effects are rough. Yeah. As I can say that being on antibiotics has saved my life more time than I'd like to think about, but the use of those antibiotics has also come at a huge cost for me. I know people that have lost their hearing based on being on antibiotics, particularly as babies. I had a mycobacteria infection, which is in the same family as tuberculosis, not the same thing, and that I needed 8 months of IV antibiotics for that when I was 15. And we had to do hearing tests all the time, and we had to check my liver enzymes, and all of these things happened. And I think that we also need to think about the fact that antibiotics, potentially with innovation, could be less harmful to other parts of the body, because antibiotics are here to kill bacteria, but unfortunately they kill other things too that we don't want them to kill, and they're very hard on your veins. I need PICC lines now, which are like semi-permanent IV lines that span to like the larger veins in your body, because my little veins are all fried from antibiotics. So I am the biggest fan of antibiotics, and this is all positive, but with innovation, I think there's a lot of work that we can do in making antibiotics more sustainable for the bacteria, but also on our bodies as a whole.
Absolutely. And yeah, one of the concerns I have is as the options are running out, health providers and patients have just the older ones left, the ones that were approved in the 40s. And it's a very scary situation. And your point about oral options, there are oral options available in other countries. And one of the things that I think the government should embrace is just, incentives to bring the oral options available. It's better for patients and providing those options. So thank you for bringing forth that example.
I think they're still using gentamicin is the one that you're talking about. They're still using gentamicin, I believe, for group B strep infection in neonates, which is the one that causes severe hearing loss. Ellie, even though she wasn't on gentamicin, needed to have regular hearing checks up until the age of 2. She had a PICC line as well, because all of her little veins, they had IVs in her head, in her foot, in her everywhere. She had a PICC line for those 18 days as well. We're all blown out as well. So, and I mean, they talk about you know, that gut brain barrier,
Yeah.
and the havoc that antibiotics wreaks on the gut in particular. And and I think I don't even know, like, we're still on a probiotic consistently after being on even antibiotics as an infant, and I still think that there's long-term repercussion from that too. So that just the innovation around the side effects that's a great point, Hailey.
Yeah.
And at that point, you don't have a decision. You don't have a choice either. You have to.
No.
You have
Yeah.
to do it. The costs and the benefits. Well,
Yeah.
there's no options there. You just have to go for it. But for me, it was amikacin, the antibiotic that I had, but I was also 15 at the time,
Right.
so I was much older.
Yeah. So there's lots of there must be a number of them that have massive side effects then, right? And to be on them consistently, you're just continually killing everything.
That's right.
Along the good with the bad at the same time, right? So
that's right. Yeah, and I think the important point is that innovation is possible. I mean, that's what's frustrating about this particular area is that you know, as the market failure around antibiotics continues to grow and become more serious, I look at it also as a human resource issue where a lot of the innovation people working on the new are going into other fields, and so we're kind of maybe other therapeutic areas benefit, but we're losing a lot of that talent. And so the point is that it is possible. There are new therapies that are improved in other jurisdictions. They're just not here, but also we have to revive the global pipeline.